Yesterday, I was watching one of my favorite podcasters, Lex Friedman, casting from down in Austin, my second hometown. And I lived in Austin for a long time and kind of miss it. But I'm in another southern city and enjoying my life very much. But Lex's podcast was quite fascinating because he had on a former operative of the government. And it was an enlightening and insightful conversation about how the government, in its own ways, keeps an eye on us. It wants to know, and in some cases, it wants to know very intensely. And so, operatives find their way into our lives. And I was listening very carefully to how these people think. What do they think about? And what they think about is personality. They think about your emotional state with regard to your personality. And I listened very intensely because he shared a lot of what I think are very important clues and cues to our connection to the divine hierarchy and why it is so absolutely critical that we stay connected and that we understand our own calling. It reminds me a lot of so many stories you hear about people having prison conversions. You know, a lot of prisoners, they are isolated and lonely, and they are being punished by their isolation. So what is the relief from that? Well, the relief is finding their faith, finding their connection. And it is transformative, and you can listen to many of them. You know, Rogan has one on every once in a while who had a powerful experience and really changed his life enormously. You know, beyond just lifting weights. But the point is that if you are under scrutiny by anyone, regardless of their affiliations, if they are really intent on understanding you and compelling you to divulge information or to become compliant, they're going to work on your personality. There's just simply no doubt about it. And you can see from how these efforts can be very successful because they use things like the Myers-Briggs to understand your personality, to understand your capacities and capabilities in the world as it is reflected through your personality type. I've taken Myers-Briggs and I've always hated it. I've always hated all that stuff. And there is a logic to using it for a lot of folks. As I remember, I think it was Carl Jung that really kind of got going on that direction. The tests I took were 20 questions, or 50 maybe, I don't know, something like that, a long time ago, when I was living in Austin. However, the modern tests are 500 questions. So what's your ability to understand how this works and what your disclosures really mean with regards to somebody who wants to engage you personally and emotionally for a variety of reasons? Friends, lovers, enemies, all that stuff. Guys that want to make you invest in their new venture. They are using these kinds of attacks on your personality. They are appealing to your personality, to your weaknesses. Where are they? Where can they be found? How do they reflect on your decisions? My decisions. It's very clear to me that there is a very clear way to avoid the vulnerabilities of personality. It is the magic act of setting your personality down. It is the essence of the entry into the divine hierarchy where your calling is revealed. You cannot take your personality into the divine hierarchy. You're going to have to set your personality down. Manifestations of your personality in the world of matter and time are of no interest to your calling in the divine hierarchy. You're going to have to set that stuff down for greater gain, for more light. The thing that occurs with those who want to control your personality is they do it in secret. In other words, it's not a mystery. Mysteries are different things. Secrets are other things. So you're being talked to by a person who has a secret. And their secret is that they want to control you. They want information from you. They want your money. They want your allegiance. They want your loyalty. They want your agreement. And so in some cases, they're willing to do nearly everything, anything, to get such things. And so how are we to then defend ourselves from such stuff? Well, our defense is our connection to the divine hierarchy, where our obedience to our calling is the new definition of our resurrected being, our subtle body. It's responding to different things. So I ask the question, do you think Yeshua was vulnerable to a CIA operative? I don't think so. And I think the story of his life tells us very, very clearly that he was not a target that was compromised. He held his ground in every way, and he held his ground by virtue of his connection to the divine hierarchy. He was the manifestation of Yahweh in a man. And that connection is what we worship today. So establishing our connection to the divine hierarchy through our angel is in fact the way to stay oriented, to not be vulnerable to all these machinations of those who have malicious intent. They don't really want to share in our connection. They want us to abandon our connection for the sake of their desires for us, or our information that we have. They want it to be theirs. So they do not want to preserve the sanctity of our connection. They want to break that connection. And that's the essence of all of what you consider to be cultural wars. They are breaks in our connection. They are attempts, relentless, unending attempts to smash the connection we have with the divine hierarchy, with your angel, to set your angel aside. And that's what they want to do. And I'm saying, no, it's important to set your personality aside so that you can allow a full manifestation of your angelic connection. And to go even further, the work that I'm doing right now is very much this work of releasing my guardian angel in a way that's part of my calling, to begin to move outside of the limitations that I can experience in a manifested world of time and space. So I don't really even understand what I just said, but it's important to have a kind of visionary approach to doing our work. It's not limited by what you can read in a book. You cannot be true to your calling reading a book, because there is the veil of words. Veil of words, where the words actually get in the way of our understanding of what's going on. So the veil in the temple was a kind of fabric, as it were, probably in the way that I understand things now, a geometric fabric. And sometimes the words can really get in the way of our understandings, that get in the way of our having an experience, because we allow the word, as we understand it, to stand in the way of experience. So as my favorite philosopher, Henri Corbin, says, the goal of the philosopher is to understand the craft of the philosopher, to understand what you're studying and reading, to know your field. But then is to have the experience, to become a knower. a Gnostic moment of the philosopher, beyond the words. That is a powerful concept, that the philosopher experiences gnosis beyond understanding in the narrative. And that's a mystical moment there that as I understand, Henri Corbin is an incredible mind and a sensitive mind. And that's the thing that I like most about Margaret Barker and Valentin Tomberg, Henri Corbin. They are sensitive. They are not filled with bluster and hubris by their knowledge. They are willing to really move out into another kind of understanding, closely related to their calling in the divine hierarchy. They are not thinking only of their effect on the eyes of men, or in other words, they are not thinking about their tenure. That's a powerful thing. And there's Mr. Ted. He's found another victim who will, as always, push through Ted. But I thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing back from you on your journey to set down your personality, to connect to the divine hierarchy, so that the events and circumstances of the day do not shift us from our proper orientation in the divine hierarchy. Amen.